Hello, and welcome to Canadian Rights Reviews, where we examine the ins and outs of Canadian rights, freedoms, laws, and policies. During a podcast hosted by Canadian Rights Media on April 3, 2021, there was some disagreement in regards to the right to refuse service. Epic Cop Watch, Transparency Canada, CRM, and myself had three separate and perhaps general opinions. 1. In Ontario you cannot refuse service on any grounds. 2. There is a right to refuse service in Alberta as long as it is not discrimination on protected grounds, but otherwise unsure of the law in the rest of the country. 3. There is a right to refuse service, Canada-wide, as long as it is not discrimination on protected grounds. The rules are the same regardless of province or territory. Today's video allows me to provide a definitive answer to that question. First, let's deal with the video, and we will come back to this afterwards. On December 9, 2021 at roughly 4:30 p.m., Josh Walker and his pregnant girlfriend Samantha-Lynn Johnson were in the food court at Upper Canada Mall in Newmarket, Ontario. They were seated and eating a meal purchased from one of the vendors in the food court. They were not the only ones. While food vendors were open in the mall, due to public health orders, they were only allowed to provide takeout service. None of this is disputed by either side. Mr. Walker and Miss Johnson feel they were targeted because of Mr. Walker's race. Security reports all individuals eating without face masks were approached, but Mr. Walker and Miss Johnson were belligerent. In this case, there are no claims of medical exemptions for wearing face masks. For today's analysis, the claim of racial profiling is irrelevant, as security was justified in approaching the couple under public health orders. Although debatable, I am not going to get into the validity of such public health orders today. That's a debate for another video on another day. Due to Miss Johnson's pregnancy, security agreed to allow the couple to travel to the exit nearest their vehicle. This is also not in dispute. Note, two separate videos are included. One from the couple and one from a bystander. As the videos were started and end at different times, I have synced where they overlap, and during that period both will be shown together. The bystander video appears to have been edited, but is as I found it. I have slightly edited audio for language. Video picks up with the couple being escorted to their exit.
Yo, you got the three stooges here. Curly, there's Curly, Curly, Larry, and Mo over there. Don't put your hands on me, bro. Don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. You're under arrest for trespass. Don't put your hands on me, bro.
Mall security and York Regional Police would later state the couple were refusing to leave. The video shows that is not at all the case. The couple were moving towards their exit. Mr. Walker was filming and making his displeasure with security clearly known. He only stops to protest when security initiates physical contact. It appears this stop to protest the physical contact is perceived by security as a refusal to leave the premises, and they quickly move to perform a citizen's arrest. In my opinion, it's pretty clear the physical contact and subsequent arrest are a direct result of contempt of mall cop. Fictional character Paul Blart explains.
Contempt of mall cop is when someone is being a meanie, and it hurts our feelings. So, we jack them up in any way that we feel we can get away with.
Hey! Hey! You cannot put your hands on him!
What are you doing, bro?
Stop! What are you talking about? We're leaving!
We're not leaving.
Yes, we are! Our exit's right straight! Through those doors like I told you! Are you kidding me? Our exit's right there! Our exit's right there! You cannot do that! Hello? Our exit is right there! Are you good?
Stop resisting, man.
Okay, but you didn't have to put your hands on him! No, he did not! I have it all on recording, you dumb shit! No, he was not! We were leaving!
No, you weren't.
Our exit's right there!
You're stopping.
Well, how are we stopping? We're here!
Get back. Get back.
Holy shit, I'm pregnant! This is crazy! Holy shit. No! This is so illegal! Move back! Move back what? Oh! You guys, this is ridiculous! Bro, he's not good.
Mr. Walker was taken to hospital for treatment for minor injuries and released without charge. Ms. Johnson stated that a YRP officer told them they were not going to charge Mr. Walker, and that she should not let the story go unheard. The following day Mr. Walker was charged with an offense under the Ontario Trespass to Property Act, and assault with intent to resist arrest. This case will come down to if stopping briefly to object to security's physical contact can be taken as a refusal to leave. I would personally think not. Who knows what a judge will think? Let us know what you think in the comments. Back to the refusal of service question. Part of the reason I am not addressing the validity of public health orders in this video is due to the right to refuse service. While there is no written law that states a business is allowed to refuse service, there is no law that strictly forbids it, with exception to certain circumstances. The right to refuse service stems from the freedom of commerce principle. One of the earliest pieces of relevant case law comes from Christie v. the York Corporation, 1939. Human rights have developed a lot in Canada since then, but this case provides an important portion of case law with regards to rights to refuse service. In the 2008 case of Giguère v. Popeye Restaurant, the Christie case was cited for the following paragraph. We ought to start from the proposition that the general principle of the law is that of complete freedom of commerce. Any merchant is free to deal as he may choose with any individual member of the public. It is not a question of motives or reasons for deciding to deal or not to deal, he is free to do either. The only restriction to this general principle would be the existence of a specific law, or, in the carrying out of the principle, the adoption of a rule contrary to good morals or public order. To paraphrase, a business is free to do as they like, unless there are laws or governing rules that specifically prohibit otherwise. In reference to the above paragraph, the court held, Christie now stands in sharp contrast to the present law in Canada. Based in large part on human rights statutes enacted in the 1960s, courts and tribunals have consistently held that it is no defense to a claim of discrimination, that customers prefer not to be served by an individual identified by race, gender, disability, or any other ground prescribed in the Code. The Code being referred to here is the Ontario Human Rights Code, which is created under the umbrella of the Canadian Human Rights Act. All the provinces and territories have their own human rights legislation, however, they are still bound by the Federal Act. By agreement, the individual provinces and territories assume most responsibilities in regards to complaints, where there is overlapping jurisdiction. The Canadian Human Rights Act provides the following for what are prohibited grounds of discrimination. There are certain times when even these prohibited grounds can be circumvented, such as undue hardship, but that is beyond the scope for today. These are the only prohibited grounds for discrimination against an individual. Absent these grounds, all private businesses have the right to refuse service. Doing my due diligence, I have also reviewed the Ontario Human Rights Code, the Ontario Consumer Protection Act, the Ontario Discriminatory Business Practices Act, and the Federal Competition Act. None of these have any language, further limiting the right to refuse service. As I stated earlier, the Canadian Human Rights Act is the foundation for what are prohibited grounds. While individual provinces, territories and municipalities are free to make their own legislation in this and other areas, they must fall under, and be restricted to, the allowances of the federal framework. There are opinions related to natural laws, sovereign citizens, the Magna Carta, and other outdated and obscure legal systems some still hold as valid in present day. The simple fact of the matter is, that is not the case, and such pseudo-law systems are irrelevant in today's legal system. While it may not be wise, the right to refuse service for a private business is valid legally in Canada, outside prohibited grounds. We will update you further if we learn of any meaningful developments in this case. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.